Carolyn Koska, the Financial and Grants Administrator here at Southwest Minnesota Arts Council. And today I'll give you a little information about the Arts Council, the guidelines for this grant program. We'll go into our online grant system and take a look at the application, and then talk about some tips for applying and the whole grant process. So you're muted for now, and you can type in any questions you have into that chat window, and I'll try and answer them as they come up. Otherwise, I'll stop a couple times and ask for any questions, and then I will unmute you at the end and we can talk some more. So Southwest Minnesota Arts Council is a nonprofit organization committed to promoting and encouraging the development of the arts in the 18 counties of Southwest Minnesota by serving as a source of funds and technical services, which enable local organizations, educational institutions, and individuals to sponsor and/or create and promote the arts in their communities. So we are one of 11 regional arts councils in the state, and our funding mostly comes from the state of Minnesota, from an appropriation from their general fund and also through the Arts and Cultural Heritage or Legacy Fund. We are committed to supporting artists and arts organizations in creating, producing, and presenting high-quality arts activities, overcoming barriers to accessing high-quality arts activities, instilling the arts into the community and public life, supporting high-quality, age-appropriate arts education for all ages to develop knowledge, skills, and understanding of the arts, and supporting events and activities that represent the diverse ethnic and cultural arts traditions of the region. So the program we're talking about today, Art Study Opportunity for Youth, is open to students who will be entering grades 5 through 12 in fall of 2019. So that would be students who are in grades 4 through 11 right now. And they need to be permanent residents of the SMOC region for at least the past 6 months. These grants provide funds for students to study their chosen art form with a practicing professional artist through a mentorship, or attend an arts workshop, camp, or series of classes or other special training opportunity. And we really want this to be for a specific extra training as opposed to just have some money to do your art. Standard weekly lessons, such as your regular piano or voice lessons, are allowed only for those students who qualify for the federal free or reduced lunch program. Otherwise, we'd really like you to be able to do a special project outside of your normal studies. We accept any arts discipline for this grant program. So that may be dance, literature, media arts, music, theater, visual arts, which would include painting, sculpture, etc. And preference will be given to students who have some experience already in the art form that they're choosing to study. The grants are available for up to $500, and there's no cash match required, which means that you won't have to put any of your own money towards the project unless it costs more than $500. Just some eligibility items. The following are not eligible for these grants. First, projects that don't have an art focus, participation in a school or organization band or choir trip, credits or materials necessary to fulfill degree requirements for students, projects intended for mass market distribution or other commercial activities, projects that include publishing initiated solely by the applicant, which would be self-publishing or through a vanity press, equipment or supply requests that are not specifically tied to the project that you're wanting to do. And this one is important. Activities that take place outside of Minnesota are not allowed. So any camp that you might want to attend or artists that you would like to study with, that needs to take place in Minnesota. Also not eligible are activities for the religious socialization of the participants or audience, since we're using state funds. Um, activities that attempt to influence any state or federal legislation, payments of debts incurred before the grant begins, or applicants that have a past grant project still in progress. So you can only apply for one of these projects per year. Or if you have a past due final report, you are also not eligible to apply. So this is an overview of some of our eligibility guidelines, but make sure to check the guidelines for this specific program and also our general grant guidelines that cover all of our grants for additional information. And I'll show you where those are located in a little bit. Your project will need to have both a start date and an end date. And your start date is the point at which your project is set in motion, and that would be things like ordering and paying for any supplies that you have, payment of any fees for the opportunity, starting any auditions or rehearsals for that, and then any advertising or public notification. And that would be advertising of something that you would be doing outside of a already organized class performance. You can't spend any of the money before that project start date. So if there's something that you would absolutely need to pay for before your project start date, if you had to make a deposit for your registration for an opportunity, you cannot include that in your grant project budget. And so because of all of that, your start date should not be the date of your first activity or event. You'll need to give yourself time before that to pay for anything that you need. And then you'll also need to choose a project end date, allowing time after everything is finished to wrap up your project. So the deadline for this grant program, we have one deadline per year in the spring. This year that will be Wednesday, April 3rd. And the earliest project start date that you can have is May 15th. So you can't spend any money or start anything toward your project until May 15th. All applications will need to be submitted by 4:30 p.m. on the deadline date, and our grant system will actually not let you submit after that time. So that's important to remember. Any questions so far? I will pause a moment and let you type anything into that chat window if you have some questions. We'll just take a couple minutes. I haven't seen any questions come through yet, so I will move on, but feel free to ask anything in that chat window as we continue. So I've taken us to our website here. So there's a couple of places here that you can access our online grant system. One is right on the home page in this black or dark gray grants box. There's this login button right here that will take you to our online grant system. Otherwise, you can access that from any of our grants pages. Here is our page for the Art Study Opportunity for Youth grants. You'll see we got this Apply Now button that'll take you right into that system. And I just want to point out what else is available to you here. The guidelines for the program are here. Also the guidelines for all of our grant programs. So these are those couple of things that I pointed out that you'd want to take a look at. We have the application questions available here in a Word document. Some people prefer typing their answers into the Word document first and keeping that saved on their computer and then pasting everything into the application later. But you don't have to do that, but that's available for you if you'd like. Our budget form is available here and is also available within the application. Here are the evaluation criteria that the reviewers will be using to score your grant, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. And also there's a video tutorial for the online grant system. And finally, we have here all of the important dates for this program. So we will click on the Apply Now button. That brings you to the login page. If you already have created an account, you can go ahead and log in. Otherwise, you can click the Create New Account button, and you'll have to enter some contact information in there. Just be aware that whatever email address you choose, that is the address we will be communicating with you through. So make sure that that's one that you regularly access. I'm going to log in here. So if you have applied before, you'll come directly to your applicant dashboard. And then to start a new grant, you would want to hit this apply button up here. If you are coming into the system for the first time, you'll come straight to this apply page without going to that dashboard first. So you'll want to, we have all of our available grants listed here. You'll need to go through and find art study opportunity for youth. If you want to preview the application before starting anything, you can click here. Otherwise, if you're ready to go, you can click this apply button and it'll start an application for you. You'll need to have a name for your project, and it can be as simple as attend XYZ camp or study with name of artist. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Then you'll put in the amount that you're requesting, and you'll probably want to wait to do this until you've filled out your budget form. All of those guidelines are available again here, along with the Word document of the application questions. I will point out, you'll see that most of the narrative fields have a really large character limit, and we're not expecting you to come anywhere near to filling that up, so you don't have to worry about that, but it's just there in case you have something really important that you need to say that takes up a lot of words. But in general, keep in mind that our reviewers really appreciate shorter, concise answers as long as they cover all of the information that was asked of you. And again, here are those scoring criteria that the reviewers will be using. So you'll enter in the grade you'll be entering next fall, and then describe in detail the art form and specific opportunity that you want to participate in. Here's where you stick in those start and end dates that we talked about. Then this next section is about the opportunity that you're going to be doing, and depending on the type of study that you're doing, there's a few different things that we ask for. So basically, with the apprenticeship or mentorship or a workshop or class that just has one instructor, you'll need to provide a resume for that artist, and there's a place down here to upload their resume. And also you can put in their artist website here if they have that available. But in this text field here, you'll want to describe the artist or instructor that you're working with. If you're attending something that will have multiple instructors, like a camp, just describe the camp, and here you can upload a brochure about it or link to the website for that opportunity. And there's a second web field available for you. I will point out that the reviewers will only be able to access web links that you put into these special website fields that have the little globe on it. If you put a website into one of the text fields, they can't even select it to copy paste it into the browser. And then these two, again, are just for if you're doing a mentorship one-on-one with a teacher. You'll need to include samples of that artist's work. You can, if it's a visual artist, you can put images of their work. You can put multiple images into one document to upload that in here. You can link to something on YouTube or their website if they have more samples there. And then again, for just that mentorship one-on-one study, you'll need to have a signed note from the artist agreeing to the project, and you can upload that here. So this next section is all about your experience in the art form. You'll describe the past activities that show your interest and experience. How long have you been practicing this? Again, a reminder that preference will be given to students who already have experience in this art form. Then you'll put samples of your own work. We have 3 upload files if you have, or upload fields if you have photos or written work that you want to upload. Again, you might want to combine multiple images into one file just to fit in as much as is allowed. And again, we've got some more of those website fields if you have one of your performances posted on YouTube, something like that. So, but all of these are samples of the work that you're doing in that art form. And a box to check if you decide to give consent for us to use those samples when we're announcing that the grant was awarded or in other marketing materials. This next bunch is all about your commitment to your art form. You should describe challenging things that you've done with your art and why you ended up taking on those challenges. Then it'll ask about taking on this opportunity. Why are you willing to commit this significant amount of time to this opportunity? This next section is about your artistic growth through this project. So it kind of has you look at where you are now, what are your current strongest and weakest areas in your art form, and then what do you expect to learn from this experience, and how will it address those strengths and weaknesses and help you grow as an artist. Then we have our section on outcome evaluation plan, which is required with the state funds that we're using. So you'll need to have at least one goal for this study opportunity. So what specific changes are you hoping for yourself as an artist? And then you'll need to say what your plan is for being able to measure or evaluate whether you've met those goals to see if those expected changes have taken place. And if you click here, we've got some examples for a couple different types of projects. So for instance, this dance one, it says the goals are to improve technical details of my jumps and turns and to be a better performer on stage. And then how will she know how she achieved her goals? She will view videos of her performances, get feedback from the workshop instructors, and have her current teacher evaluate her jumps and turns before and after the experience. So there's some examples here of in different media what you might do for those goals and evaluation plans. Then we have the budget. You will click on the budget form here, which will bring up an Excel sheet. So in this form, you'll itemize cost of the camp, if that's what you're doing, any supplies. So you'll stick your amounts in here. Oops. And that'll add this up for you. And then the amount that you're requesting, it cannot be more than either the total cost of the project or $500, whichever is less. In this case, with our made up numbers, the total cost of the project was $300. So in here, you'd type $300. If your cost of your whole project was more than $500, you would stick 500 in the grant request. And then down here, you would say where you are coming up with the rest of the money towards that project. So you would fill this out, save it to your computer, and then upload it here back into your application. If you have extra information that didn't fit into your budget, you can type that in this text field here. Then last is this data collection section. Again, these are just numbers that we pass along to the state. So just how many artists you're working with, and then if you are performing or exhibiting your work, what kind of an audience will you have for that? And then for these next ones, they each have a series of codes for you to choose from. If you click on the link, it brings up the sheet, and you would all enter 01 for individual artist for this particular one. So you would just fill out these, choose which code you need. Then finally, you have your electronic signature. Student would need to put their name here. If the student is under 18, a parent will also need to sign. Down at the bottom here, we have where you can save your application or submit it if you're ready. We will save for now. And you'll notice it tells you these are all the questions that you have not answered yet. So that's good. It won't let you submit until you've answered all of the required questions, but this just gives you an idea of how much you have left. So now we're going to click on the little home button, which takes you back to your dashboard, and you'll see now we have an application started here. And so when you come back in to work on it some more, you'll click here to edit it further. If you're awarded the grant, this is the same place you'll come back to access the contract that you'll need to fill out and your final report form. They'll be available right here. I will stop again if you've got any questions you'd like to type in that chat window. Give you a couple minutes. I see a question that's been typed in. Can more than one person get the grant? We have grant funds available for multiple students to get grants each year. But each application should just be for one person's project. I'll continue on. Feel free to type any more questions in as they come up. Here are just some grant writing tips. It's really good to start early, plenty of time before that deadline, so you have time to gather everything you need and to get any questions answered. It's important to read those guidelines carefully and read all the questions fully and make sure to answer all of the parts of each question. Some of them have multiple parts. Like we talked about before, keep your answers clear and concise. It's also good to assume that the grant reviewers don't know anything either about you or about the study opportunity that you're going to. even if you feel like, oh, this is a well-known camp that lots of people go to, it's very possible that our reviewers will not have heard about it. So it's important to include plenty of information about that opportunity. And finally, it's a good idea to have somebody proofread your application. We are here to help you with your application. So if you want to talk more about the specific project that you're thinking about before starting your application, that's always a good idea. And you can contact us anytime with questions as you're filling out the application. And also, we can review your application before you submit it, up to 2 weeks before the deadline for sure. After that point, we can't guarantee that we'll be able to look at it. But that's a good way to just say, is there anything that I've missed here? We can let you know if you need to answer a question a little differently or forgot to include something before you submit it. So once you submit your application, our staff reviews it for eligibility and completeness, and then it goes on to a panel of individuals from our region who will discuss and score the applications based on the criteria for the program, which we'll look at in a second here. And then it goes to our board of directors who approve the final funding based on the recommendations from that review panel. And these are the criteria that the review panel will be looking at. First, they'll look at the excellence of your work and if you've demonstrated your talent in the application, that is worth the most amount of points, 18 points. They'll look for evidence of your serious commitment to your art form and to this project. That's worth 10 points. Then they'll look at how well the project will contribute to your artistic growth. That's also worth 10 points. And finally, they'll look at that outcome evaluation plan for just 2 points. If you receive a grant, you'll need to complete an online contract within 30 days of notification of that. After you complete your contract, you'll receive 80% of your grant award before your start date. And then you'll receive the remaining 20% of your grant award after your project and final report are completed and approved. If you are doing a show of your own work or some performance separate from your actual study opportunity workshop camp, you would need to include our funding credit line on any advertising that you would do for that. You most likely won't need to worry about this, but if you are doing something that you are advertising for separate from the advertising about the camp or workshop, you would need to make sure to include the proper credit lines and logos, which would be sent to you. Finally, you'll need to complete an online final report within 60 days of your project end date. And it's a good idea to look through that final report when you start your project. That'll be available to you as soon as you have completed your contract. So then you'll know what information you'll need to gather as you're doing your project. If you need to contact us, we are available in our office in Marshall Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. You can reach us by phone or by email, and we will do what we can to help you with your applications. And that's all the information that I was going to run through today. I can unmute everybody now. If you have some specific questions about your projects that you're thinking of doing, we can talk about those. So thanks for joining us. And if you have additional questions, you can just stay on and I can answer those for you.